Hi, and welcome to Old Time Knowledge. You want to learn how to make the most amazing roast beef, super tender, delicious. This recipe is it. You cook it on high heat for a limited amount of time, turn off the oven, and just let the door stay closed until it's done. Take it out, let it rest, carve it up, and it's ready to serve. I'm going to show you how I do it, so stick with me and we'll get right to it. All right, first thing, I need to get the dry rub on the meat. So I've got my wonderful cast iron skillet, which I use for everything. I'm going to put some olive oil right in the skillet. I'm not going to be cooking this on the stove at all. I'm just going to take the piece of meat that I purchased, which I'll show you, from Piggly Wiggly. It is a lovely rump roast, about 3.64 pounds. This is just a really good size, and so I'm going to take this and put this in the pan and get it covered in oil, and then I'm going to apply the dry rub. Now this dry rub is one that I mixed up myself. I was out of Montreal steak seasoning, which I like to use on this, so I looked up a recipe and actually found one that was pretty good, and so I'll link that in the description below. But I just want to get this piece of meat coated really well with the oil because I want to make sure that the rub is going to stick, and also that the outside of the meat is going to be, I think the oil helps it sort of brown up and sear because I'm going to be putting it in such a hot oven, and I just think that this helps with it. So I'm going to take off one of my gloves so that I can use that hand now to reach into the bowl of spice. I don't want to contaminate the spice because I'll be saving what's left to use sometime later. So I'm just sprinkling this seasoning generously. You want to use more than you think you should. And you can use any kind of spice blend you want. You can just use salt and pepper if you want. I just happen to like this one. And, it doesn't make the inside, even though you're using a whole lot on the outside of the meat, it doesn't really make the inside of the meat super salty. You still might end up adding a little bit of salt to the meat on the inside. But if you're like me and you like, roast beef sandwiches after, like the day after you've made roast beef, it's really nice to be able to have, that unsalted roast beef. It kind of reminds me of boar's head. And so that's kind of what I'm going for. But don't be afraid of putting a whole lot of seasoning on the outside because it's not going to make the inside of the meat really salty. Now, sorry for shifting that camera like that, but I wanted to show you the oven is on 500 degrees. It's preheated to 500 degrees. And so it's reached that temperature. I'm not going to let this roast come up to temperature with the oven. The oven needs to be super duper hot when you put this roast in. You'll notice I have the fat on top of the roast because as it cooks, I want that fat to drizzle down around the meat. And so I'm just going to put this in the oven. And there's a formula for how long you cook it. You cook it 7 minutes per pound at 500 degrees. And then after you've done that, you're going to turn the oven off, but leave the door closed and let it cook 20 minutes per pound with the oven off. And so in this case, I'll be cooking it for 25 minutes thereabout at 500 degrees, and then I'll be turning the oven off. All right, so the roast has been in the oven now for about 25 minutes, and this timer is about to go off. As soon as it goes off, I am turning the oven off, and I am going to just leave the roast in there for, I think I calculated it at 70 minutes. You can see the roast is in there. You can barely see it because my oven door is not like the most crystal clear thing in the world. But that's it. So it's just going to cook in there, oven turned off, door closed for about 70 minutes, and then it's going to be ready to take out. And here we are, 70 minutes later. The roast is done and it is gorgeous. Let me turn it around so you can get a better look. I'm going to cover this with a piece of aluminum foil and let it rest for 20 minutes. Don't rush this part. Do not rush this part. It's so important. So I'm just going to get a piece of aluminum foil and lay it right over the top and just kind of cover it over just a little bit And we're just going to wait because this is where the juices really just sort of start to settle in. It's going to be perfect, y'all. So just be patient. Be patient and let it do its thing. Now, while that's happening, look, I'm going to make some Idahoan instant mashed potatoes because they taste really good. And I've got 20 minutes. So this is perfect time for me to make my sides that's going to go with my roast beef. So this is like the easiest thing in the world. You've probably made these before, but it's just literally a pouch of the mashed potatoes and 2 cups of water. And I like to add in a little bit of butter just to make them really good. And I'm also going to be making some LeSueur peas. So you probably don't need to see me making instant mashed potatoes. Guess what? I'm just going to show you anyway because this is such a short video. So anyway, there I am adding some butter. I'm going to wait for the water to come to a boil, and as soon as the water comes to a boil, I'm going to add it and get these mixed up. And there it is boiling. You can see that clock in the background, the timer's counting down. So there's my first cup of water. Get that in there. And the next cup of water. Y'all, I know how to make real mashed potatoes. I just love these Idahoan mashed potatoes because they're so quick and easy, and I don't normally need to make a lot because I'm just making food for me and my son and then my mom sometimes, and so it's just a small amount. We don't need a whole lot. And this is quick and easy, and I especially love this because the roast beef, what can you do but just wait? And so this is a perfect time to do any of the little sides you're going to do, because most of them you're going to be able to get done in under 20 minutes, and they're going to be hot and fresh when you're ready to carve up your food and serve it. So it's just a great idea all the way around. Okay, I'm just stirring these up a last little bit. I'm going to get the lid on, put it on kind of tight, and move it over to the side so this will stay hot while the roast beef is getting ready to serve. I'm going to get my pot ready, turn the burner on, and get ready to make some delicious LeSueur peas, which I have not had in forever. I saw these in the store the other day and I just had to buy some. So that's what we're having. Mashed potatoes and peas with our roast beef. I mean, it's just really good, simple, basic, and easy. That's a big thing. There's something to be said for stuff being easy. Y'all, I will admit that with these peas, I had forgotten that they had so many pearl onions in them. I mean, they have a ton of pearl onions in them. I like onions, but this was a little bit too much. I probably won't buy these again, but anyway, I'm just letting you know that, yeah. But they're still good. They have such a good flavor. Okay, I'm just putting the lid on these peas, and I'm just going to let them sort of cook on low, medium low, something like that, until the beef is totally done resting and is ready to carve. And we're going to be getting there, and here we are. So here's the beef, and I want to actually check the temperature. So let me get my little meat thermometer in there. And what we want is for the temperature internally to be at about 135 degrees. So I'm just watching this thermometer, and it might take a minute to get there, but sure enough, it looks like it's getting to 135, which means this is cooked perfectly. I'm very happy with it. I would say this is ready to carve. So let me get the beef out of the pan and transfer it over to the plate, and I'm going to start carving it. Alrighty. And I will say the outside of this is going to be a little bit more well done. So if you have any family members who don't like rare or medium rare roast beef, you can serve them from the outer pieces. I don't mean the very end, because obviously the very end is going to have a lot more seasoning on it because that's where you rubbed it in. But it's more done on the outside. So, but look at that, y'all. Look at that. Perfect roast beef. That is so good, so tender. And you're not seeing it because I'm cutting it with the knife, but if I were to pick up one of those pieces and just barely pull on it a little bit, it just pulls. I mean, it just comes right apart. I won't say it's falling apart because it's not quite like meat that's been boiled for 2 hours, but it is super, super tender. This takes any roast, and cooking it in this way is going to just result in such a tender, perfect roast beef. So let me finish getting this carved up, and then I'll get it served, and I'll show you how it looks all plated up. Okay, I needed to check here and see how many slices I had cut because I wanted to make sure I had enough for each of us to have at least 2 slices to start. Alrighty, now everything's ready to serve. Those peas are bubbling. The mashed potatoes, remember, I've set those to the side and they're ready. So let me get some plates and get this served up. All right, here we go. Gonna start off with some mashed potatoes, of course. And you can't see that, but I've got the bowl over there on the chopping board, and I'm just getting some of that on the plate. Sorry that it's not in view. I couldn't really tell what was showing up on my camera at the moment, but it is what it is. Now I'm going to get some peas, and look at all those onions. There's like 10 trillion onions in there. If you really love to eat pearl onions, you'll like this. You know what I mean? I like onions, I really do. I just don't want so many onions in my peas. So anyway, but it was a nice memory to see that on my plate because it's been so long. So there's one piece of delicious tender roast beef and another piece. And I'm just going to get a little bit of that juice from the pan. So I'm going to need to get the pan lifted up a little bit so I can get that, because it's not like it's really deep in there. And I'm just going to use a tablespoon to get it. There we go. There we go. So, and you can make, like a little au jus or something if you want, but this is fine for us with that little bit of the broth from the pan drizzled over the meat and the mashed potatoes. And would you look at that? Does that not look amazing? Let me tell you, it is amazing. So I really hope that you will try this and that you will let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, just know we are absolutely going to be enjoying this tomorrow with some bread for sandwiches. It's going to be delicious. Cannot wait. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.